I feel like graphic novels have a ton of benefits. For instance, when I was a child, I didn't think that graphic novels were educational books, but I ended up reading them a lot. But once I ended up reading them and picking them up, I learned that they were just books with more pictures and more colors. I think that sometimes it's easier to understand a story when you have actual pictures. You can paint the entire story in your head instead of just some. Because every time I would read a graphic novel, I wouldn't have to imagine or guess what the characters looked like, where they were, or, for instance, the scenery. But I feel like the whole graphic novel thing, it gives you more of an entire whole image of what the story really is and what it entails, instead of a story with, for instance, no pictures or no colors or no pictures of the character, because at that point in time, it just leaves you to imagine and to have to come up with certain answers yourself, which sometimes sucks, but sometimes it also does help. But I think that it's cool to have the whole image in your head of what the story is. Could a book like El Deafo be used in an educational setting? I definitely believe that a book like El Deafo could be used in an educational setting, because it's an educational book. It didn't really teach per se like history or anything, but it for sure did teach life lessons. And I feel like it's a book that can be easily relatable to a child going through the same thing, or not exactly the same thing, but a struggle early on in their life that puts them apart from the rest of children their age, and helps them adapt to the world and how they're seen in it. Because sometimes being able to relate to something in a book is easier than not understanding it, because it can be one thing from a parent telling a child that you're normal, you're beautiful, you're not different from any other kids, but fully understanding that you are not any different from them kids, and seeing that in a book another child like you worked through whatever differences they had, like she did in El Deafo, is a good thing, and it's healthy for the child to see that they are no different, and that the things remain the same, like they could function the same. And even though if they can't function the same, saying that they have to go to maybe deaf school or school that's different for people like them, it's okay at the end of the day. I do also think that I don't think that a book like El Deafo can't be used in an educational setting at all, but I think that it definitely can. I don't think all graphic novels can be used in an educational setting, just because sometimes their content is a little I won't say that. I'll say that sometimes I feel like graphic novels should be separated into sections of what they are, like for what ages they are mature for and what they aren't. Because I've seen some graphic novels that were fairly inappropriate for, say, a kid, because just because it's a graphic novel doesn't mean it's appropriate, which people need to understand. But some graphic novels that are for kids I feel like should easily and should always be put in libraries if they want that option, because it's no different from a book. It's just more I feel like graphic novels are more descriptive in how they approach the story. They have exclamation points, capital letters. You can see who's saying what. You can see where they are, what they're doing, how they look. So, for instance, we got to see her in the hospital with meningitis. We didn't just get to read about it. We saw her. We grew with her. We understand what she was going through. It's kind of, I feel like it's easier to grow up with the characters, seeing what they're doing and going through, than just to read about it through text. Because sometimes I feel like it was hard for me to really connect with a book just through text. Like Coraline, I had seen the movie, so when I was reading the text, I kind of put two and two together. I knew what everybody looked like, I knew what the worlds looked like, but I feel like a book that's so descriptive like that is hard to imagine without having an actual picture of what it might be, what Coraline might look like, what her mother with the button eyes might look like. So I think graphic novels are very good for purposes like that.